Hi, everybody. This is Firebird Grey Wolf of Native Voices Turtle Island TV. Today I have a special guest, my young friend Patrick Brooks. He is from the Tuscarora Nation. And not only that, he is a champion dancer. He is a veteran. He is a craft person and much more. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored. I thought about having you because Gathering a Nation is going on, and it's powwow season, and they're doing their thing over there. They keep having live stream. And how do you feel about that, Patrick? Do you do you miss it?
Not Gather Nations, I don't. I miss powwow definitely, but not Gather Nations. Gather Nations is for my personal opinion, when I speak about myself. Gather Nations is great for every dancer to go once. It's a great place to go once. Once in your lifetime, you got to go see it. It's sort of like, just that once in a lifetime thing. You go, you experience, you never want to go back really.
Okay.
Unless you live closer.
Why do you tell people it's a one-time thing and not really to go back? Is it because it's too overcrowded, too competitive?
There's so many things. Let's start off with how many oil companies back Gather Nations. How many oil companies back Native Gather Nations? There's a lot of oil companies that back Gather Nations. Number two is that it's not owned or operated or sponsored by Native tribes. It is non-natives that run Gather Nations. So none of the money that goes into Gather Nations go back to the community. So I have an issue with that. The fact that Albuquerque, New Mexico, in that area is really unsafe for dancers. I just got a phone call from a buddy of mine and his family. His entire regalia was stolen. All of his eagle feathers, all of his beadwork, everything he had there was stolen. It happens every single year. People breaking into cars, breaking into hotel suites, and just stealing all your native gear.
So this is going on at the Gathering of Nations outside, or?
Yeah.
Wow, we never hear about that. Why do you think they put so many Native people in the front to look like they're running it? I know the gentleman that started it.
Because if the non-natives knew that this powwow wasn't even operated and run by actual natives, then they'd probably start having issues.
Oh, I mean, you mean all those people there don't know what's going on? They're just going along with the flow.
Oh yeah, a lot of people know and they just ignore it and you just see it as a powwow, as a fun, and that's okay. Like I said, it's my own opinion, and that's okay if that's the way you want to see it. If you just want to see it as a powwow. But as I've gotten older and gotten more involved with my community and other Native communities, and seeing how financially hurt we are and how we need the money to stay within the community. For instance, Gather Nations is not cheap. It is super expensive just to dance. I mean, just to dance is crazy expensive. I mean, insanely expensive. You pay for parking, you pay for hotel lodging, and you pay just to dance. Even if you're not competing, you pay to dance at the Gather Nations. And you have people that barely have much money they still want to go to Gather Nations, and they'll spend all that last dime just to go to Gather Nations. And none of that money goes back to the community. And now an example is Shinnecock Nation. I like using them as an example. The Shinnecock tribe, when they hold their powwows, every dime that's collected at the door goes back into the tribal community. That's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, we're supposed to be the talent, basically. The dancers are the talent, and the non-natives are spectators. They pay to come see us perform. They come to see us dance. They come to see us carry on our tribal traditions in a lot of ways, if you want to call it traditional. But they want to see us perform our tribal dances. So they pay to come in. So all that money that comes from non-natives should go back to the community. It's just like selling native goods to non-natives. That money goes back to a native family. So it should be that way. And in my personal opinion, as much money as Gather Nations makes, and they make millions of dollars this weekend. They'll make millions of dollars this weekend, and no tribal nation will see a dime of that.
Where do you think the money's going?
Oh, it's going to a family's pocket. I every year I kind of post about the family that gets the money, the guy who puts it on. He's an African American gentleman.
Yeah, he started it.
Right. And the amount of money that goes in his pocket is insane. I mean,
And that's
insane.
funny. I heard that he started it because he saw unfairness in other powwows. Isn't that ironic?
It is. And for me, I'm a dancer. And if you're a true dancer, Gather Nations really kind of lets you down a bit because you don't get a chance to dance, really. You really don't. It's for competition. You go to compete. When I went to Gather Nations, I was so excited. I went about 7 years ago with me and Emily. And we went, and it was a great experience, except the hotel was horrendous. The hotel we stayed in was like a Super 8, which I'm getting a lot more people coming out complaining about the same Super 8 I stayed in, about how bad it's run down and how the homeless people are sleeping in the walkway, and it's bad. We went. It was a great experience. Grand entry was like at, I'd say about 10 o'clock. I didn't get my first dance. I didn't get to dance my first dance at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
There weren't many intertribals. I think there was maybe 3 intertribals the entire time we were there. This is when it was in the pit. And then I think Emily's women's traditional was like at 11 o'clock. So she got to dance once. I got to dance once. And then the next day I got to dance once in competition. And then that was the end of it. So I think in total I danced maybe 4 songs after traveling that entire distance to go be there. I got to be grand entry, got to do my category, and that was it. And
go ahead.
And it's not like Denver March. You go to Denver March powwow, there's tons of intertribals. Every drum plays. So while they're doing, especially drum competition, they're doing intertribals doing a lot of drum competition. So you get to dance your favorite drums. And as a dancer, you dream about especially on the East Coast. You dream about dancing to drums like Midnight Express, Northern Cree, and you have daydreams because you've watched these drums on TV or bought their CDs, heard other people dance with them. So you dream about having those being able to dance to those drums, and then you get together Nations, and you're like, you're on the sideline going, please let it be Young Spirit, let it be, Northern Creed. That way I can at least say I dance to their drum.
Wow. Now you got to dance real late. Is that due to that there are so many categories?
There's so many categories, and there's also like you got Miss Indian World that goes on. You got all this. They have all this extra stuff, and the way they have it set up. For me, it wasn't for me. I'm glad I went once. I'm glad I've seen it. I think every dancer that should go once, go one time. See what I'm saying? Go once, enjoy yourself. If I ever go back, I won't go back as a dancer. I'll go back as a spectator. I think spectators enjoy the powwow way more than us dancers do. You walk around, you enjoy yourself. When I was there at the pit, I know they changed location. I was in the pit. I had 4 eagle feathers broken from the crowd.
No.
Yeah, from the crowd. There was so much. The crowds were so bad that it was like on top of each other. I have 4 eagle feathers broken from people running into the back of my bustle as I was walking. It's hard you can't save seating. You can't put down a blanket and save seating. I understand why, but it's still, you can't put your stuff down and walk away to get a drink or anything like that. It becomes difficult. So it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
Now, is that a nonprofit organization or just an LLC?
I think it's an LLC. It might be a nonprofit. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak out of my ass here. Excuse my behind here. I'm a military guy. Sorry, language slips sometimes.
Because with a nonprofit, most likely he could be voted out as head of that if they're not doing right. I guess unless the committee, everybody's getting some money. I
don't really know how it goes, so I don't want to go too deep into it because I don't want to talk about things I don't know. I only want to talk about things I've experienced myself, and that was my experience. It was a great place to go visit once. Go experience it. It's like Disney World sometimes. Some people's like, I'm happy I went. I enjoyed the rides, but there's a good chance I won't go back there. You know,
Well, my friend and I we were speaking on the fact that COVID is going on and all these people piled on top of each other.
it could be a super spreader. It can definitely become a super spreader, without a doubt. And every video I've seen, I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen one native out there that had a mask on.
Not one. I didn't
Yeah,
either.
I didn't see nobody have a mask on. And I think at this point, I don't think the mask really is going to do anything with this amount of people. You know, mask works in passing, short distance, short exposure. But when you're talking about 3,000, 4,000 people crammed into a building, a ventilated building, that, all I can do is pray. I'm just praying nobody gets sick. I hope it turns out to be good, but it has the potential of being a super spreader.
Well, you said it's very expensive. Do
Yeah.
the dancers have to pay a big fee? The drummers, or
Oh my God, yeah. Just to drum, just to sit down and drum. I think it's like $3,000 you have to pay to get to play. And they have so if you just add the drums alone, just the drums, if you put 20 drums in there. So I think they average 13 to 20 drums, if I'm not mistaken, 13 to 20 drums. Every drum that enters in is like $3,000 to $4,000 you have to add, you have to pay to, I'm given a estimated
wow.
guess, you have to pay just to dance. I mean, just to drum. The dancers, when we went, it was $60 for me and Emily for all 3 days.
$60
For each.
for each day.
No, for she had to pay 60. I had to pay 60 for 3
Okay.
days.
Okay. Well, that's not too bad. But for the drummers, so there's no such thing as
But if you
invite.
that's pretty bad actually. You said it's not too bad, but if you think about 3,000 dancers,
Yeah. That's true.
3,000
When you do the
dancers,
math, when you
$60 each.
yeah, when you do the math, yeah, that does add up.
Oh my God, $60 each. And then on top of that, they don't feed you. I got a Gatorade there. It was it was one of those shorty Gatorades for $8.
$8. Oh my God.
Now don't get me wrong, it's more Together Nation than just the dancing. When you have a lot of extra stuff that comes out, you have live events that go on, you have the comedy show that goes on, you have, they bring out the Apache dancers that come out and dance. I mean, you see a lot of things. There's a lot that go into it. But as a dancer, you don't get your money's worth out of it. You really don't. As a dancer, you don't get your money's worth out of it. As a spectator, you probably get your money's worth out of it because you don't have to just sit there and watch the dancing. You can go outside to all the other things that are going on and participate in the women. Really watch the world, the Indigenous world, Miss Indian world.
Miss Indian World. I heard they had a gospel group this time. That was a different concept. They showed a gospel group, and I'm like, wow, they're spreading their horizons, huh? That's very interesting, So there's no such thing as like guest drummers or invited drummers. It's just you just have to pay your way,
It's competition.
basically.
It's competition, and it's big money. It is big money if you win, if you place in the categories. And it's not just about the big money. It's also just to have your name in lights saying that you placed at Gather Nations, as a highlight. So,
which powwows do you like the best?
I really like powwows that take care of their dancers. I love homeschool powwows. My favorite powwow is a powwow that a lot of people don't know about, especially out west. People don't know about it. It's the Penn State powwow. Right at Penn State University. It is an amazing powwow. Is it huge? No. It's getting bigger every year because more and more dancers coming out. It's run by John Sanchez. He's a professor there at Penn State.
Is that in Philadelphia?
No. It's in Penn State. It's in PA.
PA. Okay.
Yeah, it's in PA. But it's at State College.
Okay. Yeah. I hear a lot of people really like that.
It's a great powwow. John Sanchez is White Mountain Apache. He does everything really old school. He feeds all of his dancers out of his own pocket. He brings in a staff of cooks, and every dancer gets fed. And he also makes sure every dancer has at least gas money to get back home. So it ranges from $100 to $50 that he'll pay every single dancer that participates $50 to $100 to make sure they get back home. It's
Wow,
completely
that's really awesome.
it's absolutely free to dance. You don't pay anything to dance. You get in there and it's like family. It really is like family. He does honoring for people that have passed away. They do a special honoring for Native people that have danced there, that have passed away the year prior. And what an honor to do that. He does a special when our women or our men get diagnosed with cancer. They do a special, not a ceremony, but he brings them out and gifts them and gives them a prayer, just lets them know, we're with them, stands with them during their time of cancer. It really is like what you want in a powwow in so many
powwow.
It's not a competition powwow. You're not winning big money. You're going to win lots of cakes because they do tons of cake dances. You might win a cake, but other than that, it's not about the money. It's not about the prestige. It is about family. That's a great powwow. Lenape powwow, the Lenny Lenape powwow in Bridgeton, New Jersey. Fantastic event. Very, very, very similar to Penn State in almost every way. There's a couple powwows I never miss no matter what. Lenape powwow is one of those powwows. Penn State is one of those powwows. Those are two powwows I never miss. I don't care what my schedule is. I make time for those two events.
Now, I know that you have been an arena director as well. Can you tell the audience what arena director does? Because
arena director, the original term was whipman. That was what the original arena director is. He's sort of he's the groundsman. So you have your MC that runs the. You have the MC. Was that from you?
That was me.
Okay. I got me looking around. You have your MC, your master of ceremonies, that he runs the powwow. He gives the education. He lets people coming in. And your whip man, which runs the grounds. He makes sure the categories are set up, make sure there's no disturbances on the ground. If there's something the MC needs, he takes care of it. He's basically the go-to man when there's an issue or problem at the powwow. The whip man kind of takes care of that. He'll send you in the right direction. He makes sure that circle stays in working order at all times. He's a whip man, normally one of the hardest working people at the powwow because he's always on the move.
Okay, and I've seen you in work in action. You make sure regalia is correct as well.
Well, you got to, you have a lot of, when people think of Native people, you have so many people, non-natives, that idolize Native people, which is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. But they see it more as a Comic-Con feature, where they want to dress and stuff like that. And powwow has a purpose. It's not I don't see powwow as ceremony. It's not ceremony. It's not traditional. It's something that many tribes have adapted. The original name powwow came from the East Coast of the gathering of our medicine people. Powwow was the original pronunciation of powwow.
Yes.
So, when you enter that circle, there is prayer behind that circle. There's prayer behind it. Like for me, when I dance, I tell people when they ask me about my dance, when I dance, it's a prayer. It's a prayer because for me, I don't believe in organized religion. I don't believe in Catholicism. So I believe in spirituality. I believe in my traditional tribal beliefs of prayer. And how I get my prayers, how I feel like I actually got heard, is my dance. If anybody that's been in the arts that know how to dance, when you dance or when you sing and you truly let everything out, you feel like you walk on air. Feels like a weight's been lifted. It feels like everything inside is gone. And for somebody that deals with PTSD like I do from my time in the military and anxiety, depression, I deal with all those things. And even though medication helps, nothing works better than that dance. When I get inside that arena, I'll turn into a different person. You've seen me inside there when I dance. When I get in there and dance, I let go. Everything I am lets go. I leave everything in the powwow grounds. So I try to keep that powwow grounds as purified as I can. It's not about just because you want to come out and you see Indians dancing and you want to join in. That's great. That's why we have intertribals. But to come out and be dressed inappropriate, that especially if you're dressing another tribal's regalia, If you're out here being a chicken dancer, which belongs to the crow people, but you have match mess on that doesn't go with the crow people style, I'm not letting you come out and disrespect the Crow Nation. I'm
Right,
not letting you
right,
come out and disrespect the Cherokee Nation. I know too many of these people. I've been blessed to be in these communities and smoke with some of the elders and sweat lodge with a lot of these elders from different tribal communities. And they depend on me being the person that I am and be not just speak a good thing, but also practice the right thing.
right, right,
So when
right.
people hire me to be an arena director, I take that job really seriously. My grandfathers were arena directors. I have a lot of my family members that were arena directors, and that job was very serious to them. They didn't take it as just another thing to do. They took it as a serious commitment and job. This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm going to do.
Right. You have also been head veteran. Can you tell the audience what the duties of a head veteran is as well?
Well, the head veteran is basically like the head man at a powwow. I've been head man quite a few times myself. But he kind of walks out and he represents the veterans in our community. We got to remember that Native people make up the highest percentage of volunteers in the United States military per capita ever. There's never been another race of people ever in history that volunteer more than Native people, ever in history. We have more volunteers ever. So when it comes to the United States military, Native people have always been warriors. We've always stepped up. We've always signed up. We've always volunteered. Even during Vietnam, during the draft, they couldn't draft Native people off reservations. We couldn't be drafted. But what we did do is Native people were lining up by the thousands at the sign-in gate to volunteer to go to the Vietnam. So the head veteran represents he's the figurehead of all veterans. So his job is to be out there to honor the veterans, and if there's something that's sacred that happens inside that circle, he sort of kind of like takes control of it. So if there's an eagle whistle blown on that drum, if an eagle whistle is blown in that drum, he'll let the MC know. I mean, the arena director know if he doesn't know already, or if there's an eagle feather that's dropped. He has a practice on how retrieving that eagle feather in the right traditional way and how to bring it up. Because the way I was brought up, when an eagle feather drops, it represents one of our soldiers were lost in combat. So it takes a veteran to retrieve that.
So, can you spoke of post traumatic stress disorder and things for veterans? Are there many Indigenous veterans suffering from this? Are there organizations that help them?
Uh, we are so underappreciated within the military. There is no, like, when you go to the military, they say it's freedom of religion, and in a way it is.
Mm-mm.
They have, like, if you need to go to mass, if you're a Catholic, they allow you to go to mass. If you're Jewish and you need to go to a celebration for Jewish people, you're allowed to do those things. They accommodate so many religions, but when it comes to Native people and spirituality, we're really not recognized. Something I suffered from in the military was my inability to do sweat lodge, because I was stationed in Germany, and we had quite a few veterans, but they wouldn't allow us to do sweat lodge because they didn't understand sweat lodge, and I needed sweat lodge badly. So I suffered emotionally and spiritually through feel like not having my ability to pray, my ability to practice traditional ways of our people because of these things. So I end up having to, like, whenever I had vacation, I end up flying back home just to do sweat lodge or longhouse because I wasn't able to do it there. Even our Native people, our hair has been a huge part of our culture, a huge part of our spirituality, and they're allowing people to grow beards now in the military if you are of Hindu descent and you practice Hinduism. You can grow your beard out and you can wear that special headgear, that special turban they can wear. But Native people still to this day, we can't keep our hair long. We still have to cut our hair off when we go into
Wow.
basic training. And me, I remember my day in base training when they cut my hair. It was, I mean, it was devastating having my hair cut. You know, I was volunteering and I knew what I was getting into, but my hair had played such a big role in my spirituality and who I was as a person. You know, because Native people, we fit in with everybody else. We look Puerto Rican, we look Mexican, we look Spanish. Depending on what region of Turtle Island you go, we look like a different race. And for me, I change races as I go across the borders. Over in New York, everyone thinks I'm Taino or Puerto Rican. Right? Everybody thinks I'm Puerto Rican. I go to North Carolina, they think I'm Mexican. I go to
North
Florida,
Carolina?
yeah. If I go to Florida, I'm Cuban. There's just, or I'm a Dominican too up here. I'm Dominican up here too. In New York, I'm either Puerto Rican or Dominican are my two things I get mixed up with quite a bit.
That's funny because North Carolina is the original home of the Tuscarora Nation. Go figure.
It is. It's true. It's true. So, you know, my PTSD, it really got affected by the fact that I couldn't practice spirituality the way I needed to practice spirituality. I do believe to this day that if I'd been able to practice my tribal traditions the way I needed to while I was in, after having to see all the deaths and all the mayhem that I seen while I was in the military, it might have been able to help me quite a bit. Now, as I'm out of the military, I practice my tribal traditions a lot more. I'm able to, pray. I'm able to do what I need to do since I've been out. And it's helped out a ton. Even when I was hospitalized with my PTSD and my depression shortly after I lost my wife last year to cancer. I was hospitalized for 4 months.
Yeah, she was a sweetheart.
Oh, yeah, I loved my Emily.
I know you did. You guys were always together. Always.
Yeah. She made me into a better man. And I'm blessed to be what I am today because of her. She was a blessing. But I got hospitalized and I end up, had some tribal members come out to me there and did some prayer with me, and going through all that and having that release helped me go through my therapy.
Wow, that is, it's so sad. Other people from other countries have more respect than the veterans here. What branch were you in, and where did you serve? What countries did you fight in?
Oh, well, I did 2 tours in Iraq. 2 tours in Iraq, 1 tour of Afghanistan, and I was in the Army.
And how was that experience? Very traumatic, I can imagine.
It was good and bad. I'm not going to talk bad about my experience in the military because I loved a large part of it. I love my brotherhood. There's no place like it in the military. Like there is in the military. I love my time in. I did my duty. I felt like I gave everything I could give, and I rest easy at night. Well, when I'm on medication, I rest easy at night. It's never natural. War is not natural.
No,
it's not natural. Seeing that much death is not natural. Being a part of that kind of turmoil is not natural. So you suffer from it. You suffer from it, but I don't regret it.
What branch did you say you served in?
I was in the United States Army.
In the Army?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, in the Army. Okay. Patrick, I see that you are a 3rd-generation storyteller.
I am, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your family history with that and how you use it?
Well, Native people, we have always been, we collected oral history. We didn't do any written. Most tribes didn't do written history. Everything was passed down from family member to family member, and stories were a huge part of Native culture. And every tribe, if you go to every tribe, not just our people, but you can go to Africa, you can go to Australia, and you go down to the roots of the tradition of the people. Stories were the way to teach and lead by example. So these stories have been passed down for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it got passed down to my great-great-grandfather, and he passed it down to his grandfather, and you carry on these oral traditions. And it teaches you It's sort of our version of Bible verses.
Yes.
So I tell the story on how the skunk got his stripe, and that story about how the skunk got his stripe talks about bullying. It's actually a big story about bullying, why not to bully. How the turtle got his squares on his back, and it talks about how the calendar was made, and how Sky Woman. We talk about Sky Woman or Seven Brothers. That's a Lakota story. And we talk about, Thunder Boy, which is a Mohawk story, Thunder Boy. And we tell all these stories about, and there are lessons behind them. And we pass them down to our children, and we get our children to understand our teachings through stories. You don't want to be like that skunk, because that skunk bullied. And you see what happened to him. Now all his ancestors are cursed with that mark down its back.
That is awesome. I wish you could share a story right now, a short story. That would be awesome. Can you tell me about Ravens Wing Productions?
Yes, Ravens Wing Productions is a Native American education group. I don't call it an entertainment group because I hate that terminology, entertainment, because I feel like I'm an act. We started 15 years ago. And what we do is we bring in dancers and a live drum to different venues, and we do educational events. We dance, we sing, we flute play, and more importantly, we teach. See, I've been a part of some of these programs where you just come in and you dance, you put on a little show, they clap, you go home. I did not want to be a part of that type of organization. I wanted you to walk away knowing something you didn't know. So we would bring in Native women educators that would talk about women's roles in the community. What did they do in certain tribes? Talk about most tribes on the East Coast were matrilineal. A lot of people don't understand matrilineal concept, and that the women controlled the power, the wealth, and the decision making through our tribal societies, like Haudenosaunee people, my people of the Iroquois Nation, the Tuscarora people. We're all matrilineal people. The women are the power. So, which made more sense to us because women gave birth. And why wouldn't the women that give birth, the women that create, are the ones that should be leading the creation? And that's the way we've seen things. We see things, not see things. So Ravens Productions, we travel all over the country. We've been to quite a few other countries as well. And we put on these programs to educate. And we talk about everything from Native stereotypes to women's roles to veterans' roles, Native veterans. And then we give them a little taste of the dancing, the singing, the flute playing, and storytelling. That way they feel like, wow, not only were I entertained because they danced, well, I didn't know that the Constitution was based off the Iroquois Confederacy. Not a lot of people know that our United States Constitution was based off the Iroquois Confederacy. Not many people know that the first scalpel was created by Native people with obsidian glass.
Right.
So, these things need to be told, because if you look at the modern history books, only a page and a half is dedicated to Native history. And we have a lot more history than just Wounded Knee and Battle of Little Bighorn.
In Ravens Wing Productions, is it a intertribal production company or Tuscarora?
Nope, it's an intertribal. I wanted to keep it intertribal. That way, I wanted people to see that we don't all look alike. I hate being lumped together as Native Americans. I don't even use the terminology as Native American. I use the terminology as Indigenous American, because Native means to be born of. I mean, anyone been born here is Native American technically, and Indigenous means to be your ancestral roots come from that area. I'm Indigenous American. I'm not Native American. So when people put me in a lump sum of Native American, they go, "Oh well, then you could put a political spin on it." So you had some people from the Navajo Nation that were big Trump supporters, right? So, and they came out publicly, said they were Trump supporters. Well, you had non-natives going, well, the Indians believe in them. And you had other tribes going, hold up. They don't speak for us. We are a different nation than they are. They are a different tribal nation. They don't realize there's 500 plus federal recognized tribes, 300 plus state recognized tribes. And we all practice differently. We all have different languages, different belief systems. And so my Raven Wing Productions, we bring in tribal nations. I work with 70 dancers. And out of those 70 dancers, we cover 35 tribes. So everything from the Cherokee Nation to the Ho-Chunk Nation to the Navajos, we should properly say the Navajo, the Nez people, to the Crow Nation, to the Lakota people. So we try our best to say, and when we bring dancers in, they are dressed in their tribal attire. They're not just all dressed like. There's not just women's traditional dancers. We have a woman's traditional dancer that dresses in the Lakota style of dress. We have a Shinnecock girl that comes in dressed as a Shinnecock Nation, and we make sure they are of that Shinnecock Nation. So we do our research of the people, and they're able to talk and present themselves. They say, "I'm Shinnecock. This is where I'm from. This is how my people were. This is how my people are." That way they have a voice for their people. And I think that representation in the Native community is so important because we don't get enough representation. So if we take the representation from each other, then we're just crabs in a bucket. And I don't want to do that. And if there's any way I can bring money back into another trial, we work with Lenape people a lot. So I bring Lenape people in, and they get paid well when they dance and they perform. I make sure they're paid well because I want that money to go back to the tribe. I want that family of the Lenape people to benefit from this, especially if I'm performing on Lenape land. Right. If I'm up here in New Jersey, I'm doing a program, you best believe I got Lenape people in my program.
Right.
If I'm performing in Florida, I got Seminole people in my program.
Right.
Because I'm on their land, and I have to ask their permission to perform in their area. But that's what I believe.
One of my viewers is saying it would be great if you could share a short story with us.
Okay. Let me see. Let me find George. Give me just a second.
Okay, hon.
All right. This is my friend.
By the way, Lenape is watching as well.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt. That's family right there. The Lenape Nation, I won't put them in as a nation, not just as a people. They've been part of my life for a long time. And when I lost Emily, they stepped up to the bat and made sure that I knew that they loved me and they were supporting me. Even when Emily had cancer, they did blanket dances. They helped us raise money to try to help her get cancer treatment. I was their head dancer at the Lenape powwow for many years. Back-to-back years, they brought me and Emily in to be their head dancer. What an honor for another nation to go, you know what? You represent in a certain way. We want you to lead our powwow. For me, that's a huge honor for another tribe to bring you in.
Yes. Well, they're on board here watching you, and as well as Cherokee, and they want to hear a little story from you.
Well, this is George. This is one of my teaching props. When I go into the schools, George is a petrified little small snapping turtle.
Yeah.
George, I'll tell you how, turtles, even though they're bigger and smaller, they have almost the exact same number of squares. But no one ever asked why they have these squares. It's never been scientifically proven why they have this square. No one can figure it out. And I'll tell you why how the turtle got his squares. But if you look at the turtle, he's got 4 on the right, he's got 4 on the left, 7 down the middle, 24 around the edge. But he's also got all these squares all over his arms, his leg, and his underneath, all this, all these little dots, these little squares, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, after the great flood came upon the earth, Creator wanted to rebuild the earth. So he moved upon the face of the earth across the waters. And on this little branch, he found a sparrow just sitting on top of the branch. He's a sparrow. You fly so well when you fly long distances. You think you could dive in the water and bring me back some mud so I can rebuild the earth? So the sparrow said, oh, yes, Creator, I can. So the sparrow flapped his wings as hard as he could, and he flew as high in the sky as he could, and he dove deep into the ocean. He gone for quite a long time. He came back, his wings all drenched with water. He said, Creator, I cannot dive deep enough to bring you back the mud. So Creator kept moving. Then Creator seen something on top of the water doing this, and it was an alligator. He said, alligator, you're the swimmer of the depths. For sure, you can swim down and bring me back some mud so I can rebuild the earth. And with a big chomp of his mouth, alligator said, yes, creator. And with a flip of his tail, he dove deep in the ocean. He was gone for a long time. Finally returned to creator. I'm so sorry I could not dive deep enough to bring you back the mud. So the creator continued to move. And then all of a sudden, this mirror on top of the water caught creator's eye. And it was Turtle. His back was beautiful and shiny. He said, Turtle, could you do me this favor and dive in deep in the ocean and bring me back some mud so I can rebuild the earth? And Turtle said, yes, creator. Oh, yes, I'd love to do this great deed for you. So all of a sudden, Turtle tucked his legs in and darted into the water. He was gone for a long time, but he was gone so long that the alligator and the sparrow had swore he had drowned. Over a year later, Turtle finally returns to the surface, and his two little paws, he had a little bit of mud. So the creator took that mud. He created all the land again. Many years later, creator wanted to reward Turtle. He came on the face of the planet. And Turtle was basking in the sun like he always does on a rock. And creator said, Turtle, I want to reward you for helping me. And Turtle said, oh, creator, you don't have to reward me. You give me everything that I need. I have my home on my back, fresh water and food to eat. He said, well, I will put something on you that from this point on, mankind will always be able to help. So in the back of the turtle, he's got 4 squares, and those are for the 4 changes of the moon. On the left side of the turtle are 4 more squares. Those are for the 4 seasons. Down the center of the turtle, there's 7 squares. Those represent the 7 days of the week. Around the edge of the turtle, there's 24 squares for 24 hours in a day. And if you count up all the squares in the turtle, all over his body, you'll come up to 365 days.
Wow. Wow.
And that's how the turtle got his squares.
Wow. That's awesome. Loving it.
Now stories change throughout tribes, and as they get passed down, people add and take away from the stories. They add their little twist. This story is the way I was told, and my grandfather was told. So I only can tell it the way they told me, the best way I can.
Wow, that's awesome. You are also a craft maker, jewelry maker, regalia maker. And you were posting on Facebook that you're getting into quill design now. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
I am a jack of all trades. I love to learn. You know, my grandmother Judy was an educator. I have tons of teachers in my family, and my grandmother used to say, every time you learn something new, you get a wrinkle in your brain. So you want lots of wrinkles. The more wrinkles you have in your brain, the more you lose this. She said, never stop learning. She said, the day you stop learning is the day you stop wanting to learn is the day you start to die. Never stop learning. So I love learning. So I've always wanted to learn quill work. And I had this amazing woman in my life she's learned how to do quill work. And she was so generous and so amazing to come and visit me all the way from Wisconsin, sit down with me and teach me how to do quill work. Now, I'm still learning. I'm still a baby at it. But, I do everything I can to do traditional ways. We've lost so many of our traditional ways. I have another teacher of mine that has taught me how to do risen beadwork. She is from the Micmac Nation, Miss Claudia Haddad. Andrea has been a big pivotal part of my life of learning as well now. She's been a great teacher, teaching me how to dye quills, how to keep them and use them. And Claudia has taught me so many things through crafting. And I've just been blessed. I've been blessed because your knowledge is so valuable. But it's one of those things you can't take when you die. You can't take it with you die. I think I live by the motto. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Troy. And in Troy, he says, when you die, what happens? He goes, well, your kids will remember you, and then your great grandkids. But before you know it, you'll be forgotten. It's what you do when you live that determines your longevity of how long you live. So I want to learn as much as I can to pass it on.
Patrick, someone asked about the turtle. If you know if it was ever used to be a calendar.
Some tribes did use it as a calendar. Most tribes used trees. Trees were a huge calendar amongst the native people, especially here on the East Coast. Trees are the way we told our years, because a tree's it adds a ring. So every year, so you had a birth tree, so you knew how old you were by how many rings that how many seasons that tree went through. So if you cut a tree in half, or you cut a tree, you can see the rings and you can count how many years that tree's been alive. So trees were a big calendar. The seasons were a big calendar. So turtles, I can see as used as a calendar. That's where the story came from. Behind every story, there's a bit of truth. So
Yeah.
that story I just told, it's got to be at least 250 years old, 2, 3, maybe probably 1,000 years old. That turtle story, and behind every story, there's a bit of truth.
A bit of truth. I have a video to share with you. I'm not sure if it was your concerns or Native people don't have enough superheroes.
Oh yes.
It's like it's a well. I'm going to show it, and you can remark on it.
Okay. I want to give a little bit more information about some of the Native American characters that really influenced my life, such as Puma and Black Condor, Red Fox, and Warpath. But I gotta say, the one that really influenced my life had to be Red Wolf. Cheyenne guy coming in and really saving the day in Avengers number 80. One of my first comics I ever received, something my grandmother brought to me, 25 cents off of a swap meet stand. This character, to see a Native American in the limelight really showing great attributes about our people, and not the reruns that we were seeing in the 80s and that day that showed us as just two-syllable people, or not educated, or just drunks on the side of the street. A Native American that fought for his rights of his people and really fought for good and justice in the world, and really formed me to be a United States Army soldier later on in life like I did. This comic book really is important to me, and I know it's important to a lot of other natives, to show native children that we have a voice in the comic book world as well as the real world. Hope you guys consider me. Have a great day, and I'll see you at the stage.
Aww.
Well, I didn't even know that was a public video. It was.
If it's public,
Yeah,
I will find it.
well, that video was my casting call to a show called Comic Book Men. It was a TV show that came on, and it was produced and written by Kevin Smith. And I got put on the show. They actually took me on, put me on the show. Unfortunately, my episode didn't get aired before the show got canceled. It was on for about 7 seasons. It was a great show. I loved it because I'm a nerd. I'm a straight up nerd. And every word in that video is absolutely true. I've always been a nerd. I grew up poor, but one thing I loved was comic books. Comic books were a humongous thing in my life. And I remember my grandmother bringing me my very first comic book she'd found at a yard sale. She was a big yard sale fanatic. My grandmother's, she had a crew of 7 older women. And those women went on yard selling, and you did not get in their way because they'd mow you over. So every Friday night, those women would come over to our house, and they would plot out where they were going for yard sales for Saturday. They would meet up at the house about 5 a.m. They'd have a little breakfast, and then they would hit the road yard selling. And, they were on a mission. And I remember one Saturday she came home and she said, I got you something. And it was an edition of Red Wolf. I'd never seen a native person in a comic book before. I grew up with Captain America and Iron Man and all these guys, and I'd never seen a native person in a comic book before. And I was like, just like, oh my God, I was like really like enthralled with this character. I know I've read that comic book 300 times. I had to read that same comic book 300 times, to the point where I could recite the comic book back to my grandmother. And I loved it so much, seeing native people in such a light, because I grew up, with native people being not idolized, as seen as drunks or the noble savage. where we spoke with broken English or broken syllable words. Me welcome with two tongues, and and here's a comic book that portrayed a native person that was well spoken. Not in the very beginning of it. It evolved. In the beginning, he spoke just like all the other old movies did. But as the comics went on, he spoke with regular tonnage. He was our Black Panther.
Oh, yes. Speaking of that, someone wrote Black Panther is a native hero, but they stole it from us and Africanized it.
Actually, it's the other way around. Black Panther came before Red Wolf. Black Panther, but
Red Wolf been around a long time. I know that.
Yeah, Black Panther was around before Red Wolf. We actually kind of took his attributes. We are the Black Panther of Native community. But I'm glad someone's seen that similarity, because there is a ton of similarities. The storylines are almost the storylines are very, because Stan Lee wrote Black Panther during the time of the Black Panther movement, during what was going on at that time. He wanted to give African Americans, because you had Luke Cage, then you had Black Panther, two prominent African American superheroes. And Red Wolf was like this. He was very small. He's a very small character. He only had a 5 comic issue run before he ended up in the Avengers, and he had maybe 1 or 2 more show ups, but he never showed up again.
Was that through DC Comics or huh?
He was in Marvel.
Oh, he was in Marvel.
He was in Marvel.
What years again?
Black Panther came out in 1968. Red Wolf came out in 1973. So seeing that hero on the page I was like, oh, you know what I mean? That was my hero from that point on. And as I got older, now I have a huge collection of native comic books. It's all I collect.
You do?
That's all I collect. Even the toys.
Really?
I research native, any superhero toys that are native, I collect them. I give you an example.
Okay, I appreciate it. This is awesome. Yes, the jaguar is indigenous to America. All right, wow. Look, folks, he's sharing.
So these
are
some so I collect anything that's native, and people are like, why are you spending all your money on this? It's because when I have my nieces and nephews come here, when my niece, because I love being Uncle Patrick. My favorite thing in the world is being Uncle Patrick. I'm a real old school uncle, and all my sisters will tell you, I have tons of sisters out there, tons of brothers out there. I take being Uncle Patrick very seriously. So when my nieces and nephews come over here and they say, Uncle Patrick, I want to play with a toy, I want them to play with something that represents them.
Right.
So instead of giving them a Captain America doll.
Wow. Where can you find those?
Oh, I did tons of research. You can find them online. I have every they used to do comic book cards, and really? I researched them over eBay and just bought them one at a time as much as I can. I bought them I bought just by everyone I could find. I buy. So I was a huge fan of it, and I still am. And I'm still searching. I'm still finding toys I didn't know were out there that represent Native people. I want my nieces and nephews to play with something that says, wow, this is me. Sort of like when Barbie first came out, before it was African-American Barbie. African-American communities really forced the issue. Hey, what about our children? Shouldn't they have something that represent themselves? And that's when they start coming out with African-American Barbies. And
we should do that campaign.
So I do the same thing. In my storage, I collected all the native Barbies, all the Barbies that are native. I have the whole collection of native Barbies. I know people might think I'm weird for buying a Barbie, but anything that's native has that terminology of native people, of culture. Because so I have the Barbie, I have the Navajo Barbie, I have the women's traditional Barbie,
Don't see them much.
Oh, you don't see them much. Exactly. Because they don't bring them out very much. You really have to search. You really have to look. And that's what
Shouldn't have to search or look, right?
you shouldn't have to. No, it shouldn't go through this much work to go, you know what? My daughter, is Navajo. She'd like to see somebody that's also part of the Navajo culture. Here you go.
I know a lot of Black independent businesses are making their own dolls. They're not waiting for mainstream. They similarly look like Barbie dolls, but it's privately owned. Maybe we should do something like that as
It would be
well.
great. The thing about it is we're still 30 years behind the African American community when it comes to some of the things that we're dealing with. We're catching up. Like the African American community is showing a lot of things that we should be getting into.
Why do you think we're not progressive with that? What is that about?
I really think it comes down to poverty. And I think it comes from systematic trauma. Look at it this way. If you think about it this way, I lived in Baltimore for years. And I lived in the ghetto of the ghetto. And people say, well, why don't people just leave the ghetto? The ghetto is an addiction. Like cigarettes is. Cigarettes are bad for you. You continue to smoke them. Drug addiction is an addiction. The ghetto is an addiction because you figure out ways to why it makes you feel better, so you hang on to it. It feels normal. It feels recognizable. And Native people, we deal with the same thing. These reservations, we deal with the highest rate of alcoholism per capita of any other nationality, with the highest suicide rate than any other nationality per capita. We have the highest dropout rate above any citizen per capita. We have the highest per capita below the poverty line. I'm sorry, not property, poverty line.
Poverty line, yes. So I got you right away.
Right. So we have all this stuff stacked on top of us, and we're not seeing the forest we're not seeing the tree through the forest.
You spend $500 on a regalia, because
I make mine.
No, but I'm saying a lot of people would, instead of putting the money into, like you say, our own businesses.
Look at regalia like African Americans look at cars in the ghetto. How many people in the African community live in a horrible neighborhood but have 20-inch rims?
Mm-hmm.
How many live in substandard living, but they have $300 Nikes on? Because this world has made us as
$20,000 cars, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, and living in the projects.
Well, the way is, Native people are the same way. We're the exact same. Yeah. Where we become materialistic more than businesslistic until we start transforming over to the business side of things. Going, you know what? That's why I love using the analogy of how Amish people run their communities. I love the way the Amish runs their communities. I love how they run the communities.
Me too.
Whatever they do goes back to the community. No one goes hungry. No, everyone has a house. Everyone has a skill. You're taught to have a skill. And you take that skill and you don't do it within the community. You take that skill outside, benefit, and bring it back home.
You reminded me of something. You were saying something about converting school buses.
Yes, I am getting into schoolies. I had an offer from powwows.com about doing. What I want to do is I want to create a media form where I go around and to every powwow and do a segment, a live and video segment of different powwows. And that's way. So I'm building a school bus. It's called a schoolie. So it's an apartment on wheels.
Apartment on wheels.
So it has everything you'd ever want in an apartment. It's nice and big. It's got a bathroom, running water, everything you can imagine. It's gorgeous. And you just go from reservation to reservation, powwow to powwow. And I just want to do interviews with Native people. Get their stories out there. Let's talk about, How does this powwow affect you? What do you think about this powwow? Give powwows a rating chart. I want to do a powwow rating chart. So I go to a powwow and say, okay, traditional wise, I give it a 3. Or the food was fantastic. The vendors were fantastic. Paying to get into the powwow is expensive. That way people are, I want to go to this powwow, but I don't know what it's like. Well, the hotels around here are very inexpensive. Or hotel stay is really expensive. Prepare to bring a tent to camp out unless you're looking to pay $120 to $240 a night at the hotel. Or this powwow has camping. This powwow has, this powwow has that. Sort of, and do some video, do some vendors, and talk to the elders. Most importantly, talk to the elders. What has changed about powwow? What would you like to see come back? Do you feel elders are represented in the powwow well enough? Do you think elders are represented at all the right way? Talk about the things that we ignore. Native people, we ignore a lot of stuff. We ignore and we just don't talk about it. And I'm one of those people that if it's not going to be fixed unless it's brought up to the light. It's not going to be fixed. Us bickering amongst each other about an event is never going to fix the event. You know how many times I've been to powwows that had no signage? No signage, and I couldn't find the powwow for hours. And I'm calling people going, hey, I don't know if I'm in the right area. Can you link up with me? No signage. Or I've been to powwows that were great powwows and no one knew about them. Mm-hmm. So they don't have many dancers. They don't have much sponsorship. Getting the word out there, I think, is just important. Having that thing. So it'd be called Powwow Highway. Because that's basically what I'm going to be doing is just traveling in the school bus, documenting my travels, talk about what it is to be a wounded veteran on the road, talk about what it is to be a traditionalist on the road, my spirituality, and just documenting my travels.
Wow. And when you're not reaching powwows, are you planning to still live in the school bus to save rent and all that nonsense?
Oh, absolutely. Rent is ridiculous right now. I mean, I work with, in my job, I work with overnight. I work with a lot of older gentlemen, and they always complain about my generation, with the 40-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, about how we're not buying, we're not buying houses and stuff like that. And they don't realize that the cost of living has gone up, but the pay hasn't gone up. So in the community I live in right now, which is right here in Secaucus, the average 2-bedroom apartment is $2,600. And I don't mean this is a good size 2-bedroom apartment. I'm talking about this is a cramped 2-bedroom apartment. And a school bus, I think, gives me more freedom. I am military retired. So I can, when I don't like my neighbors, I can get up and just leave.
Yeah, you sure could. I mean, you could be Plains Indians or the old Senecas that used to move around.
Well, we were nomadic people.
Keep on trucking.
Native people in general were nomadic. We didn't stay in one place.
Yes.
We moved, and it kept us healthy. Moving keeps you healthy. It's when you stay still is when you start getting sick. And any doctor would tell you that stagnant will make you sick.
That's why I'm leaving here tomorrow. I'm going back to Pennsylvania. It's too stagnant.
That's it.
It's like a beautiful apartment I have. Beautiful modern apartment and everything. Beautiful patio overlooking woods and stuff like that. But where are the people? Where's the education? I told my godson, I'm out of here tomorrow on the train. I'm out of here.
You need that. Miss
I gotta stay busy.
Miss Claudia, her dad, she's in her 70s. And that woman travels more than most 20-year-olds I know.
And she'll probably live to be 200 too.
That's it. And she does not sit still.
I don't blame her.
This COVID would really put a hurt on her because she was forced to stay still, and she was sick a lot more than I've ever seen her be sick because of her having to stay in one place.
Someone said regular communities need your school bus too. Many think there aren't any Indigenous Americans.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, especially here on the East Coast. On the East Coast, people don't realize we even exist here. When I tell them that we have 45,000 Native people here in the tri-state area, they're blown away. They don't realize you have the Shinnecock, the Haudenosaunee right down the road. You have the Lenape, you have the Lenape, the Ramapo, I mean, you have a ton of Native people right here. You just don't know about them. You don't know about them. And your history books don't talk about them. You don't realize 95% of your roads, rivers, lakes, and lands are named tribal names. Right here in Secaucus. Secaucus, where I live, is a tribal name. It means where the snakes go to hide.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a picture of you. You mentioned powwows.com.
Yep.
Now, was that taken by powwows.com?
It
They're going to
was.
sponsor you. You're a champion dancer.
I was
That's
just
an
there.
awesome picture. That's my favorite picture of you, young man.
I did not. What's funny is I did not pose for that picture. The guy,
Oh,
Mr.
wow.
Paul Growler, the guy that runs powwows.com, was on the sideline and I was jamming during my competition. That's a Gathering of Nations.
Oh, I thought that was a Gathering of Nations.
And I was just feeling it. Like, I didn't even know there was cameras around, to be honest with you. I was just feeling it. When a good song, I was dancing to Young Spirit, one of my favorite drums. And they have some stompers. And I'm one of those people, if you let music enter you, when you let it truly enter you, when it's inside of you, everything just goes away. Your body takes over. I think dancing is part of our human DNA.
Right.
And that's sort of like, you ever seen the movie Happy Feet?
Yes.
And remember how that kid was just born with those legs moving?
Yes.
That's how I feel when I'm out there and that drum's going. I just let it go. I'm a storyteller through my dance. Through my dance, I'm telling about, my enemies I took out in Iraq, or me helping my soldier come off the ground, or mourning a soldier, or mourning one of my soldiers I lost. So when I'm dancing, everything, I get excited because I feel it. It feels so good. I've had people around me that see me dance. They can feel me dancing on the ground. They can feel my steps on the ground when I'm dancing because I'm pounding the ground so hard.
Yeah, he really captured you there. I mean, this picture is world famous. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It's my favorite picture of you. Patrick, what are you planning in the near future before I let you go?
Well, I'm getting Ravens Wing Productions back off the ground. I retired it for a while because Emily was a huge part of it. So I'm going to be bringing it back out soon. Doing my programs and shows again here shortly, where I'll do flute playing and storytelling and education events, where I'll be traveling with my dancers again, doing those type of things. Doing stuff in Philly, doing stuff in New York, Jersey, North Carolina, different areas like that. Don't really have a whole bunch going on right now. Powwow's coming up. New June is a huge, huge, huge month for me. I am actually going as a what do we call it? As a ally, as a two-spirit ally to Arkansas. They have a big two-spirit powwow out there.
I just interviewed a friend of mine. He's a two spirit, and my godson. His plans are to relocate in Arkansas. Someone else said they're going down there in June. Is that the same powwow?
Probably is, yes. And I go as an ally. I do support the two spirit community.
Me too.
So I go as an ally. I have people ask me all the time, because I'll do something for a two spirit person or a community, and they're like, "Oh, are you two spirit?" Well, no, I'm not two spirit,
You're
but I
supporter.
am an ally. So I support any way I can. So I'm going down there for that, and then I have the Penn State powwows in June. Then I have Lenape powwow in June, and then I have a powwow in Dallas, Pennsylvania in June. So
Are you gonna attend Shinnecock?
I'm going to try to make it to Shinnecock. I can't promise. I'm in the middle of moving to a new apartment.
Yeah,
Thank you
congratulations.
so much.
You're busting your behind.
Yes, I am definitely looking forward to getting out there. I'm going to try my best to get to Shinnecock. I have a lot of beautiful people out there in Shinnecock. I love the people, and they've lost quite a few people that I got the chance to know while I was out there, and I want to pay my condolences to the families the right way. So I want to get out there and be able to hug necks and see all these kids that I got to see grow up over the years. So right now I'm in the beginning process of restarting my whole life again. I'm pretty excited. Creators blessed me with an amazing community. I've been gifted beyond all doubt. I've been gifted so much in my life, and I'm just wanting to get. I want to do my gifting back now.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, we enjoyed talking to you and you sharing. And anyone that wants to say hi can find Patrick on Facebook, Patrick Brooks.
Oh, there's the comments. I wasn't seeing the comments.
Oh, you can see the comments?
I can see the comments now.
Well, that's only a few. They've been scrolling up, 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 up.
That's awesome. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody that is that came on to be with us. My email was powwowdancer95@gmail.com. If anybody ever wants to reach out and ask questions, I have a Facebook for Ravenswing Productions. I also have a Facebook of my own. I also have a crafting Facebook called Bear Wolf Creations. So if you have to look at anything, and I also support and share other crafters' work. I make sure I give as much props I can to other crafters out there that are looking to get their work out there.
My godson said he's not relocating, just visiting. That's wonderful. Well, Patrick, dear, thank you so much. And we have to do this again. It was awesome.
I hope you enjoyed this. Anytime you need me, just give me a call and we can do it anytime.
Okay, sweetheart. Okay, thanks again, audience, for completely sending all these great comments. And we'll talk soon. I have another show to do at 8 o'clock tonight.
She goes, let us know when you're in Jersey. I'm in Jersey right now, love. I live in Secaucus, New Jersey.
He's in Secaucus. Can't get any more indigenous than Secaucus.
That's it.
Oh, so this is, he said he will come back. Okay, this is Fiber Gray Wolf of Native Voices, Turtle Island TV. I enjoyed everyone. Thank you for supporting. Thank you, Patrick, for taking your time out. You're quite a young man. I love you, always did. We go way back. You were a puppy. So you get somewhere rest now. This will be aired on YouTube in a few minutes.
Okay.
And once again, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm signing off. Peace, love, and harmony.
Yahweh.